Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for being here on LFA TV today. We very much appreciate it on this Saturday, last day of January, January 31st. And hey, where did the time go? As you can see on the lower banner there, goldencrestmetals.com/LFA. That is going to be your go-to website throughout this entire show today, as we are for the first time going to talk about, since the first time doing this show together anyway, Rich Jacoby and I are going to talk about a dip that we saw yesterday in silver and in gold, and why that might be the case. Rich, it is Saturday afternoon, and what a day we had yesterday, and I can't wait to see what happens over the next week or so.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how it dipped, but I think we can kind of look at that as the new selection of the Fed chair. I think Kevin Warsh.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we kind of knew there was going to be a shakeup because of it.
yeah. We actually, you and I had talked about that extensively on the first week and the second week that we did the show here on LFA TV, the Crest Report. And we knew that that day was going to be coming, to where he was going to be picking a new Fed chair. And we knew that the markets can only respond unless you have a guy out there, Rich, who the world knows. And unless that guy out there that the world knows has been saying or promising something to the American people as the new Fed chair, then the only way to respond is negatively, because they don't know who he is. I mean, they don't know what his plan is going to be as a Fed chair anyway. People might know who he is in D.C. People might in the know might know who he is, but nobody knows how he's going to do as a Fed chair because he isn't doing anything like that right now. So I can't expect anything positive if the guy. It's not like he's been out there campaigning for the job, I guess I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean that's true, and Trump obviously is behind him, so we know that Trump is pro gold and silver, so we know that we're experiencing a dip, but it'll recover. But there's certain uncertainty when you have someone coming in that we really don't know and how the economy is going to react, and
Yeah.
based on the interest rates and everything else. So there's there's a pullback, in gold and silver, but also in the stock market too. It's not just precious metals. Everything's
That's right.
pulling back right now until things stabilize. But I think the positive note is this is the time to buy on the dip. Just like on a stock, you want to buy on the dip.
Yeah.
So this is the best time to do it, and a really good opportunity.
I was getting a little scared there actually, because I really, as you know, I've been talking to you. I've been wanting to purchase some more silver. I've just been, procrastinating and doing other things and just not making it a priority. And when it jumped up over $120 on Thursday, I said to myself, well, that's just great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's just great. But then now that it dipped, like, I'm actually in part of me is glad that it dipped. If you're an investor in precious metals, know this: those prices that we've talked about with gold, silver, palladium, and platinum that we expect to see in 2026, I'm not backing away from that at all because of this dip. I know what this dip is for. And it's going to regain, and when it regains and bounces back, it's going to go back up. So, I mean, like, Rich, I was like, as an investor in, precious metals, I was kind of happy. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I think a lot of people, that have called today, I've listened to some of the calls, and a lot of people are just buying silver up, and they know it's going to recover. I knew kind of this was going to happen when they picked the new Fed chair,
Mm-hmm.
because nobody knows what's going to happen. So, you know, because of the uncertainty, people are scared. So there's obviously going to be a pullback, but then it'll recover. So, I think you need to take advantage of the opportunity here, and to buy the silver and gold while it's, in this dip mode, just like a stock, and it'll recover. I'm still standing behind the projections by Morgan Stanley, B of
Mm-hmm.
A, more, Goldman Sachs, that, it's going to hit 2 to 300. But you got to remember there's got to be a correction, anytime something happens. And it just didn't dip out of nowhere. It dipped as soon as Kevin
Oh,
was
oh
announced.
yeah, 100%. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to kind of bring you up to speed here before we start talking about Kevin Warsh, and that is this show, the Crest Report. This is a show that Rich Jacoby put together long before he brought the show to LFA TV. The reason why bringing it to LFA TV is because we at LFA TV had we already have a symbiotic partnership and a relationship with a sponsorship with the Crest Report. But that wasn't for what was the reason we brought it here. That just made it easy, like a low-hanging fruit, to add to the distribution of the podcast. The reason for this show, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, is to literally talk about gold, silver, precious metal news, and to educate. And I got to tell you, those first couple weeks, it looked like, people didn't know what to expect from the show. But over the course of the last couple weeks, even on my show today, even on my news show today, Rich, we were getting people, as we were talking about the dip that happened today, we were getting people that understood immediately in the live chat why the dip. So when I was talking about GoldenCrest today on the show and talking about the price, because we always check the price on live during the read, people were going, "Oh, that's probably because of the Fed chair announcement." You know what I mean? So it is already doing its job.
No, it's good that people are educated, and that's the whole reason we started the show, is to educate people and not freak out and run to the hills and say, "Oh my God, it dipped, the sky is falling."
Yeah.
This is directly related to the Fed chair announcement. We saw it in real time. So, the part of the show is just in education. I'm not screaming down your throat saying you have to buy from us right now. It's more of an education. And if you choose to go with us, that's great. If not, at least you're educated and make a decision
Yeah.
on precious metals.
Yeah, and you can say you got your doctorate from GoldenCrest Metals, the Crest Report, on
Yeah,
LFA
that's
TV.
it.
But we do, at the same time, folks, we do keep the number at the bottom in case you want to call, because the great thing about doing the Crest Report on Saturdays is that Rich has a team of people that are on standby in case it's something that maybe you get a question answered. Maybe you've been watching the show for 4 or 5 weeks now, or 4 weeks now, and you're like, "Wow, I've learned so much about this. Now's the time." Well, we're going to keep the number on the bottom of the screen for you, and that's 888-308-4202, 888-308-4202, and on the bottom of this screen right here, goldencrestmetals.com/LFA. And make sure, if you're watching in the live chat, click that thumbs up and let us know that you're watching. So getting back to Kevin Warsh, who that is, folks, the reason why we're talking about him is because Jerome Powell, who is the current Fed chair, his time is coming to an abrupt end. And riddled with scandal and investigation, he's going to ride out in the sunset, disgraced, and most likely looked down upon for whatever he goes on into his career next. Because what the investigations are all about is his mismanagement of the renovations with the Fed building, with the Fed chair buildings, and the federal building, and that we found out yesterday that it is the most expensive building per square foot ever built in D.C. And the president has been saying that he's been in building for a long time, commercial building for a long time. He knows that the price per square foot that was agreed to be paid was probably 3 times higher than what should have been paid. So he's under investigation for that, but also he may end up being under investigation later on for his unwillingness to cut rates, when traditionally cutting rates, what the things that need to be met in order to decide to cut rates traditionally were all there. And some are saying, and I believe it too, that he held the economy kind of stuck in that first year of President Trump's presidency because of his unwillingness to lower rates. So he's on his way out, and Donald Trump's announcement today happened to be the same day that gold and silver dipped, was a man by the name of Kevin Warsh. And because he is not really, known to the world, or because he hasn't made any promises, we've seen a big a dip today. But as you mentioned, Rich, it's not only a dip in precious metals, it's a dip in the Dow, it's a dip in the NASDAQ, it's the dip in the S&P. And I'm looking at it right now. It was also a dip worldwide in world markets, because what happens here affects everywhere, right? It's a domino effect. It's a trickle-down effect. And so it's happening worldwide. Do you think that it is a quick bounce back because it was reactionary to an announcement? Or do you think it's a slower crawl back to where we saw, which was $121, I think silver got up to this week? And like 5,500 or something for gold?
Yeah, I think it all depends on how fast Kevin, comes public about what his plan is. And people are put at ease. Because right now we don't know anything. We just know he was selected, and there really hasn't been any statements made by him of what he chooses to do. So I think as soon as he does that, people will build a comfort level, and the confidence level will go up, and then you'll start to see it rise again. So I think it's timing right now. So the sooner he gets out there in the public, the sooner it'll recover.
I have a feeling that we do know what kind of Fed chair he's going to be, though, and so should the market. And again, they're waiting on him to actually say it, but we know what Donald Trump's intention was as far as picking a new Fed chair. And it was a Fed chair that was going to be all about the MAGA Trump economy, right?
Right.
I mean, so we're expecting lower rates soon.
No, we are. I mean, we're expecting lower rates. We're expecting a lot of things. And like I said, as soon as Kevin, will come out and come clean about what his plan of action is, which I'm assuming is going to align with President Trump, then we're not gonna have to worry. Usually what happens is, that metals have kind of an inverse reaction to the stock market. Once the stock market goes down, precious metals goes up. Mm-hmm. But everything's down right now. Mm-hmm. So that just tells you the confidence level is uncertain because he hasn't made those statements.
Yeah, you're right. Here's what I believe, personal opinion, is going to happen, and this is coming from an investor point of view, not a financial advisor point of view for everybody who's watching right now. Here's what I think is going to happen. You're going to see a couple slow gains over the next couple days, some slow gains. And I think once Kevin Warsh makes his first statement about what his plans are going to be, and if those plans, as we expect they should and will, if those plans align with what President Trump has been saying needs to happen in order for this economy to really get into, pardon the pun, the golden era, of its 250 years on this earth, I think once he makes those statements, you're going to see far more gains than we have losses. If, Rich, the message is symbiotic to President Trump's.
Exactly. I totally agree.
So some huge gains, folks. But what did we get up to, Rich, this week? We got up to, silver, what's funny is somebody in the chat who hasn't watched the show in a couple weeks, and I'm talking about my news show. Somebody in the chat who has not watched the news show in a couple weeks, they came in yesterday or the day before it was either Thursday or Wednesday when silver reached, 121 or something like that, I think it was. Yeah. It was whatever day that was. Somebody came in and they said, holy crap, it was just at 78.
Yeah. It's amazing. It never seems like there's a right answer when you're talking to a customer, because they're all, it's at 121. I'll wait for it to go down. Or, when it's at 78, it'll go lower. So it's kind of like you try to find a balance with a lot of people to say, listen, the perfect time is always now, because that precious metals are going to go up. There's always going to be a dip. We kind of predicted a little bit with this Fed chair situation that was occurring. And when Kevin was selected and really didn't come out with a statement, people didn't know what to do. So I think what happened is now with that uncertainty, it's taken a dip, but it's a huge opportunity for people.
It is. It is. And you know what? It would be really nice, Rich, if we get to the point where we say that, $83 an ounce is a low.
Yeah. I mean, listen, a year ago it was in the 30s.
That's right.
So I mean, still to be in the 80s that's still big.
Yeah. Well, if your low is in your 80s, ladies and gentlemen, and you bought around 20 or 30, then you're going to be a happy camper come, end of 26. Because as we've talked about for the last few weeks, folks, really a lot of what we've seen is tech-driven. And not just tech-driven, but and when you think tech-driven, you probably think of like computer processing and AI and all of that. But we laid out in the last couple weeks what precious metals are really used for, and it's almost everything. And the other big industry was hospital equipment, and technology is only going to continue to advance. And in that advancement, you're going to need this stuff. So it's not like they're going to pull from this pile and it's not going to affect everybody. It's one pile. And there's only so much, and they're going to pull from that pile. And as that happens, as technology advances, especially, you're just going to see it continue to rise. So if $80 is a low, then you might as well get used to saying that 200 would be a high, which is, I think, where I mean, who knows, Rich? Who knows where we're going to go with this tech boom that we're still in right now over the course of now that AI is an official part of what the government is using, what the Pentagon is using, what the what CIA is using, what world governments are using, what tech companies are using. AI is the new boom, and we're at the beginning of it. And all of that's going to take precious metals.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like with ChatGPT, everyone's an attorney, an accountant, or a doctor now. Yeah, because they just run everything through there and they get their answer.
It's crazy. On my way here to the studio to do this today, I was watching a video of a documentary that was just put out where AI is replacing real estate agents, because these companies that have these AI programs now have access to all MLS listings. And what they do is they offer you basically like a broker or somebody that can be a middleman, but that person is only paid by the hour and they're an independent contractor. So it's like Uber of real estate agents, which is going to put real estate agents out of business. That's the tech boom we're talking about, folks. And while on one side of that, we don't like to hear that, especially if you're a real estate agent, if you're a precious metals investor, what's replacing them? Technology, Rich. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, and think about it. I mean, real estate agents, I forgot the percentages, but they make like, I think 4% or something like that.
3 to 6%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they make a lot of money. So this is going to really hit their pockets pretty hard.
It sure is. It sure is. And here's the other thing. The story that I was watching, the homeowner or the person buying the house, the purchaser, saved like 2.5%, which ended up being like 14 grand or something like that for them on that sale, which they then turned around and used that $14,000 for the home repairs they wanted to do. So who wouldn't do that? You know what I mean? It's like,
no, exactly.
It's like when Uber came out, nobody cared they were putting taxis out of business. They chose the Uber because it was more convenient. Same thing's going to happen here, which sucks in one sense, but, in another, it's you're either growing or going, and you're growing by changing.
And I'm assuming you've seen, I know we may get off subject, but like the Waymo cars, the driverless cars.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So you're even replacing drivers now.
Well, and here's the thing. Outside of the United States, it's becoming more prevalent. You're seeing it in other countries everywhere. Like the United States may be pushing back on green technology and driverless cars, but the world isn't. And, your ownership of precious metals is you have part of the world. Okay, it's
Yeah.
your ownership of precious metals isn't only United States based on what happens here in our economy. It's driven by what's going on in the world. Correct, Rich?
Correct.
Yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's not just pigeonholed here within this United States. Rich, something I heard this week, and mistake I might be wrong, but something I heard this week. We've been talking about China and then the United States basically kind of reining in their export of precious metals. Was it you who told me, or maybe I watched the video this week? I don't know. But did the United States raise the price of its mint?
I don't think it was me, but I mean, obviously, I know what's going on with the U.S. spend, because of the freeze that's been happening, because of the volatility and the way the price is behaving. But I assume that that freeze is going to be lifted pretty soon based on what's going on now.
Well, yeah, what's going on now for sure? Like I said, to be honest with you, the way things were going, I kind of got a little ahead of myself. I said, I don't know if we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see this thing fall below $90 now. I thought 90 was the new low, but then that happened. But again, that's only. It's not gonna tank back down to $30. We can tell you that. I do want to go through some of these headlines that we got here. I have three headlines here. One from CNBC, one from Yahoo Finance, and one from Investopedia, because I wanted to react on their reactions on what happened with the dip. So the headline on CNBC said, silver drops 30%, gold tumbles 10%, as Trump Warsh pick eases Fed independence fear and triggers a dollar rally. Now, you mentioned a little while ago that usually when the stock market is going down, that the gold and silver are going up. But I've also seen it match it, mirror it. It mirrored it with this drop. I expect, since it mirrored with the drop, do you expect it to gain with the gains of the stock market? Since it mirrored on the way down, do you expect it to mirror on the way back up?
I don't think it'll mirror.
No.
I think precious metals will recover faster than the stock market.
Oh,
I truly believe that.
I do too. Getting into this, it said gold and silver prices plunged Friday as President Donald Trump's nomination. One thing that I think we hit the nail on the head was the nomination. The Federal Reserve. Every one of these stories has something to do with that. So at least we know the culprit of this. Now, if you're an investor who waited until it was $80 or $75 to buy, do not fear this. This is okay. This is not going to be something that's detrimental. We're going to see, like Rich said, a huge bounce back, a quicker bounce back. But anyway, getting back to this, it says, for the next Fed Chair Reserve, Kevin Warsh appeared to relieve concerns about the central bank's independence and then sent the dollar soaring. Next thing it says is spot silver was down 30% at $80.55 an ounce, trading at its lows of the day, and then shows a graph that represents that. But then it says, meanwhile, gold shed around 11% to trade at $4,812 an ounce. Gold futures dropped 9.1% to $4,980, trading below $5,000. The sharp moves down were initially triggered by the reports of Warsh's nomination. However, they gained steam in the afternoon, which is exactly what you and I are expecting to continue to happen. U.S. trading as investors who piled into the metals race to book profits. So you talked about, you said buy low, right? People are piling in to buy now in order to maximize profits. What does that tell you? If the investors and the big brains out there are doing it, then I guess we should too.
Yeah, it's got to be, where it's not an emotional decision. And a lot of people tend to make emotional financial decisions. You really have to look at the history and the current events of what's going on. Because, I've talked to a couple clients today that, are just concerned. They're like, oh, what's going on? And I'm like, well, listen, you got to watch the news. I mean, this is what's going on, and it had a direct impact to it. Anytime the Fed chair cut rates, it impacted precious metals. So
Yes.
now that we're announcing a new Fed chair, obviously there's going to be a shakeup. We didn't know what kind of shakeup, how bad it was going to be, but obviously it was significant enough to get people concerned. And what I tell them is, listen, I'm not a financial advisor, but I've been doing it long enough to know that it's going to bounce back as soon as Kevin makes some kind of announcement of what his plan of action is on, the Fed.
So I want to read to you something that Matt Maley said, who's an equity strategist at Miller Tabak, and it's Tabak. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but this is, so people are saying this, Rich. So how does the announcement drive the price down? Well, he says this is getting crazy. Most of this is probably forced selling. Is that what drives the price down? Forced selling?
Yeah, I think it's forced selling, and part of the forced selling is instilling that lack of confidence, which I don't know if that was calculated by just appointing Kevin and then not making a statement of what he was going to do. So a lot of people were worried, and it was a sell-off, based on that. It's hard to say if it was calculated. I assume it was calculated, actually.
Yeah.
Because
Seems so.
I think that they announced him, but then no statements were made. And I think that was to scare people.
He goes on to say this has been the hottest asset for day traders and other short-term traders recently, so there has been some leverage built up in silver. With the huge decline, the margin calls then went out. And then it goes right back to Trump picks Warsh. I mean, that's where CNBC is going with this. So the beginning of the story and the end of the story have everything to do with picking Warsh. And you're right, I didn't really put much stock into that, but the fact that there wasn't an immediate press conference, right? Because that's what Trump likes to do. He likes to say, I nominate, and they're standing right there, and he says, say a few words, say a few words. And then they come up and they're like, oh, I love President Trump. I'm going to kiss his butt a little bit. He likes all that. But you're right, that was odd. I didn't think about that at the time.
Yeah, there was nothing said. I checked YouTube and
yeah,
a bunch of other social media platforms. There was nothing said. And obviously people are scared because they don't know what's going to happen. So, they sell off, or, they get scared and they don't know what to do. So I think it was calculated on their part to kind of hold off until maybe next week when he makes an official statement of what he's going to do or what his plan is. But yeah, listen, it's one day where there was a dip and everyone thinks the sky is falling.
I know.
And like I said,
here I am over here going,
if you did that every day in the stock market, you'd be suicidal.
Oh yeah, you'd be falling out of a building from a force push of yourself. I'm over here excited because I know where it's going back up to, and I'm like, now I can grab some at a lower cost. I thought I was gonna have to pay over $100 an ounce there, and so I looked at that and I was super happy about that. Moving over from CNBC to Yahoo News. Yahoo says, and you're gonna hear a lot of the same folks, but I'm just giving you opinions across the board here. The volatility came alongside of a wider stock market sell-off, with the major averages all lower after President Trump picked Kevin Warsh to become the next Fed Reserve Chair. The appointment is seen as easing concerns about the central bank's independence. So everybody's pretty much saying the same exact thing. And strategists, however, said gold and silver's epic rally was due for a pullback, but they all expect it to jump back sharply. The higher metals rise, the more likely the 2026 will mark enduring price peaks. Notably for silver, see that? If history is a guide, said Mike McClone, senior commodity strategist over at Bloomberg. So he just said the same thing you and I said. The higher metals rise, the more likely 2026 will mark enduring price peaks. So we just saw one, and I think we're going to see a higher one come the next month or so.
I agree. And as you know, we're on Bloomberg as well and, endorsed by them. So,
Yeah.
the interests align with Bloomberg, and we've discussed it with them, and it's the same thing. So, I think I know it'll recover. How fast like I said, it's going to depend how Kevin responds in the next week.
Yeah, I can't imagine he's going to say, I mean, the likelihood of him coming out, Rich, after everything Trump's been saying, like, that's what I mean. Like, Kevin Warsh hasn't been out there campaigning on what he's going to do, but Trump has. You know what I mean? So I think everybody knows what's coming, but they need to hear him say it. Here's the problem that we're having, though, politically. And this is something we haven't talked about yet. Senator Tom Tillis, who's being an obstructionist and a thorn in President Trump's side, says, and by the way, a Republican, says that he will hold up the nomination of Kevin Warsh because he doesn't like the investigation into Jerome Powell. Basically blackmailing the administration, saying as long as there's an investigation of Jerome Powell, you will not get me to vote for a nomination for a new Fed chair. So I'd like to see any kind of communications that Tom Tillis has had with Jerome Powell, number one. And that includes any messaging, any money transfers back and forth, any promises of anything, text messaging, emails, anything. Because there's got to be something there. Because the guy clearly is spending 3 times more than he needs to, and that is a fact. And I think you can argue that he was purposely holding back the economy by not lowering rates, which is another problem that this guy has. And here you've got Senator Tom Tillis saying, I'm not going to vote to confirm him. So I wonder if that's part of the uncertainty here, because Trump's obviously going to pick a pro-Trump guy. He's not going to make that same mistake again. But you've got the uncertainty because of the blue slips and the stupid rules in the Senate that Tom Tillis is like, I can hold up the entire nomination. And then what? I think there's more uncertainty in that than there is Kevin Warsh.
I think so as well. I think that Trump has given a playbook to Kevin, on how this is supposed to play out. And obviously that's between them.
Right.
But, Trump is very calculated as far as, economic concerns. And he's probably told Kevin, this is how we're going to proceed. This is the playbook. And that's what they're following right now. They like the uncertainty because there needed to be a correction, after Jerome Powell. So this is the correction that's happening. But there's no need to worry because it will rebound. And like you said, I think that obviously, this situation is scary for some people, especially older people that are using their retirement funds. They're like, oh my God, did I make the wrong decision? Absolutely not. It dipped once. There's no reason to jump out of the boat. You got to stay in it. I've always said it's a long-term hold. It's not a flash in the pan,
That's right.
return. So
that's right.
You got to remember that in the back of your head. This is a long-term hold.
I want to read a little longer here, and then we can go back and we can kind of analyze this too. It said last week, Goldman Sachs analysts set a year-end price target of $5,400 for gold. That's where they want to end. Now, for the people that might not know this, we already topped that this year. Now, we'd like to end higher than that, obviously, too, but the fact is that was what the year-end price target was a week ago. I bet they didn't know it would rally up as fast as it did because it went over that. The precious metal rallied past 5,500 on Wednesday after Federal Reserve held rates steady. So as Jerome Powell said, we're not going to lower the rates, the price of gold and silver went way up. And then I'm going to read a quote here. I see this as a sign that conviction levels in the dollar downtrade are high. Robin Brooks, senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, wrote a note on Thursday before gold's descent, He noted that the weak dollar is supercharging the basement trading. And silver, which topped $120 per ounce before pairing gains, was traded at around $87 an ounce on Friday. The precious metal is up roughly 28% year to date, though, following a stunning rally in 2025. So even with that major dip, Rich, it's up 28% year to date.
It's still up. It's still up.
Still up. I mean, you can't lose.
We're not at zero.
Yeah.
We're not at zero.
It's like here it is, folks. It's like you sat down at an easy way to understand it is that you sat down at the blackjack table and you started with $20 and you went up to $1,000 and you were like, man, I should walk away from this table right now. But then it goes down to 800. You're not upset. Okay. You're not upset that it only dipped down that much. And I'm not saying cash out, go cash out. I'm saying hold, because that $1,000 that you got up to, that's going to be a low, and you're going to be looking at back because it's going to get to 1,500. You know what I mean? Using a metaphor there, using some analogy work there. But
no, it's not like you're going to go jump on a plane and go back home after that.
That's right.
That's
right. You're not going to get all up. You're not going to get your intestines twisted up. Reading along here, silver prices have already significantly overshot our forecasted averages. Though calling a top is close to impossible in markets displaying near parabolic price momentum, said J.P. Morgan analysts. So 28% year to date, still outperforming what they expected it to do.
It's still smashing all the records. I mean, that the Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, B of A have put in place. So it's still busting those. And, because of this dip, like I said, people worry, but you got to understand, we've already surpassed some of the projections.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to move over to Investopedia. What I like about Investopedia is that these are some serious testimonies from investors. Number one, you can get over here, but also some really key takeaways from investors. And I want to read some of these key takeaways. Investors locked in profits from a blistering precious metal rally on Friday after President Trump tapped Kevin Warsh, a former Fed governor, to lead the central bank. Gold prices tumbled 10% from record high, while silver slid more than 25% to trade below $85 an ounce. Geopolitical uncertainty, concerns about the Federal Reserve's independence, and a weakening dollar have helped make gold and silver two of the best performing assets over the past year, and we expect that to continue, they said. So, we're kind of like beating a dead horse with this here, folks, but the only reason we're spending so much time talking about the dip is because the dip is what everybody's talking about, right? The dip is what is what everybody's talking about. We want you to know that dip is absolutely a reaction to something that happened in D.C., and which is going to happen to the central bank and the Fed. And like we've said throughout this entire program so far, as soon as Kevin comes out and says, my plan is to do X, Y, and Z, everything is going to rebound. Stock market, world stock market, and gold and silver. And Rich Jacoby thinks that we're going to see not a mirror on the way that we saw on the way down, but an outperforming gold and silver back on the way up. We got up to about 5,600 on Thursday for gold, and 120 for silver. Now you and I, Rich, said that we thought that we might see 200 by the end of this year for silver, and anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 for gold, and we almost saw it this week. that's the crazy
we
part.
did. We almost saw it.
I couldn't believe it was going up as fast as it was going. When I was watching that happen, I said, I can't wait to do the show with Rich, because I thought when we got to do the show, we would see even more. So I was really surprised by the dip, because I knew that the Fed announcement was coming, but I didn't know it until the day before it happened, the night before it happened. So
yeah.
I was expecting, and then I heard, President Trump says he'll announce his Fed chair in the morning, and I go, uh-oh. First thing I did was I thought of this. I thought of the gains that we got this week, and I said, uh-oh. an announcement like this is probably going to drive the markets crazy one way or the other. And I think Kevin not doing a press conference, like you said, is what drove it down. Had he done a press conference,
Yeah.
it might have went the other way.
Yeah, it would instill some confidence, but he didn't. And same thing as you. I found out the night before, and it was like, oh, thanks for the notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got a bunch of phone calls today, like I said, people wanting to buy and dump everything, excuse me, into silver and gold, and some people saying, "Can you educate me? What's going on? Why is it dropping?" So, we had a mix of calls today, which they were all good. We just had to do an education, and it was good for some of the buyers, and some of the people that are holding right now just wanted to be educated on why it was happening.
And I do want to say this: platinum seems to have not taken such the hit. Platinum is still trading well over $2,100 an ounce, and palladium, it took a little bit of a hit. It's down to 1687, but still doing well. It seems like platinum was the one that was probably a little bit more steady, stayed stronger. It still went down, but it stayed a little bit stronger than the others. Any reason for that?
I don't know the reason. I just know for some reason we've tried pitching platinum and palladium for the longest time, and people just will not take the bait on it. They are gold and silver people, and that's what they want. I'm like, well, there's platinum, there's palladium, and they're like, no, I want gold or silver. And it's because it's what's known.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
people gravitate towards what they know. They know nothing about platinum and palladium because it really hasn't been on the forefront.
Well, I'll tell you what, my wife and I own a little bit of each of those. We own some. We own about. I think we own. We own a few ounces of palladium, and I think we own like maybe only a half an ounce of platinum. Not much, but we do have some. Here I am telling people what I own, but whatever. I mean, if you're gonna come and take my gold and silver, I guess. If I haven't been killed over my love for Jesus or Trump yet, I doubt I'll get killed over my my little bit of gold and silver. So it looks like platinum was the most safe during this dip. What do you get more calls on, silver or gold?
Silver now. Yeah, people
Because
are just like,
yeah.
they have the silver fever.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know
Yeah.
if I have an extra 4,000 whatever dollars kicking around anywhere. Maybe I'll have to sell something in order to get it, but I would like to purchase some gold because, I mean, silver's probably going to be your biggest gain, like we saw. You know what I mean? Because it's the lowest risk for biggest reward. I don't know. If I had 4,500 extra dollars right now, would I buy an ounce of gold if I wanted to look into investing into something other than silver? And I would say this: I would do it before land. Like if you could buy an acre of land for 4,500, which good luck, but if you could, I would buy the gold over buying the acre of land. I think you're going to see more of a kickback from that.
Well, let's see what we can sort out for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can work something out.
That I said if, okay? If it was a
Yeah.
fifth, we'd all be drunk here in the afternoon on a Saturday. So yeah, basically to kind of bring it all full circle, ladies and gentlemen, you should be as happy as I am that silver made a dip, because I was kind of sitting not on the fence of deciding whether I wanted to get more or not, because I always want to get more. I just kind of been procrastinating a little bit. I'm not going to now. As a matter of fact, as soon as I get off here with Rich, I'm going to work out something to get some more silver, because after that dip, I'm like, you know what? This might be the lowest I'm ever going to get it again. I'm not saying that as a matter of fact, because anything can happen in this world. But me as an investor, I'm scared that I'm not going to see it this low again, Rich, to be honest with you. That's why I'm going to get in.
I think the same thing. I don't. If it dips a little bit more, it dips a little bit. But like I said, this is a huge opportunity. People need to call in and purchase silver. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, The only thing that it could have done that gotten better was went down to $22 where I bought my last bit at, and then I bought a whole bunch more, and then the next day it went back to $120. That's the only thing that could be better, but I doubt that something like that's going to happen. So I'm going to get in where
if it ever happened that way, I would have gone into the silver mine myself.
Well, speaking of that, Elon Musk is so he is taking SpaceX public probably this year. When and if he does that, it's a $1.5 trillion valuated company out the gate, right? And people are going to be investing in SpaceX like crazy. When the minute that it drops public, people are going to go crazy over it. But you know what I would do if I were you? When SpaceX goes public, I'd be buying the crap out of gold and silver, especially silver. Right, Rich?
Yeah, because we're not going to get in on the IPO for it.
No, there's going to be a select group of people that get to buy that. They will probably open it up to an opportunity for the general public to buy up so many. There'll be probably tiers of people that get access first and all that. But if you had the money, would you invest in SpaceX, or would you invest in the stuff that is needed to power SpaceX?
You obviously go into gold and silver and I'm not saying it because I'm in the business and trying to do a hard sell. I'm just saying it's not just SpaceX. It's also Tesla.
That's right.
Cars, solar panels. It's everything. So why just limit yourself to one, which we know is a huge valuation, but you should look at all the different companies he has that require silver and gold. So that's the blanket to go.
Yeah, Starlink.
Yeah, Starlink.
All of his satellites.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
The solar panels he has on the satellites.
The Neuralink.
The Neuralink. Yep. So all of those, and those are just his companies. We haven't even talked about NVIDIA, ladies and gentlemen, like the largest company on earth. Like, do you own stock in these companies, or do you own the stuff that these companies need to be companies? I think the answer is clear. I think the answer is quite clear. I want to own the stuff that these people are trying to mine for right now. We talked about that in the last few weeks too. If you haven't watched the show, is Elon Musk is looking into getting into silver mining. I mean, there's only two people's financial advice that I'd like to follow in this world: Elon Musk's and Nancy Pelosi's. Wait a minute.
That's it.
Hold on. Nope. I got to add a third one. Ilhan Omar. How that woman went from negative 65,000 to 30 million in 3 years? Beyond me.
We'll never know. Yeah,
Beyond
we'll never
me.
know that one.
Maybe I should invest in a fake wine company. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I know for sure that the legit people out there, like the Elon Musks, I think I want what he's doing. Another thing that he's talking about doing is cell phones. And there you go again. You can't make a cell phone without needing precious metals. If he gets into having his own X brand of X phones, I imagine with all those companies, he will have to have a silver mine at that moment. At that point, he'll have to have one.
Yeah, it's like he's taking over the world. I mean, it's
the new emperor.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, it's amazing to see what the guy has accomplished. And we all thought, I think he was the original or one of the original founders of PayPal, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, and everyone thought he was going to go broke, or he thought if this one missile didn't launch, that was it for him. And look at what the guy has done. I mean, he's been successful twice now, or many times over.
It reminds me of President Trump, right? It's those people that it's those people that face utter destruction and put it all on the line, and look at him now. I mean, look at Dana White. We talked about MMA last week, right? Dana White and the Fertitta brothers bought the UFC for $2 million measly dollars. I say that like it's not something. I'd love to have $2 million.
And all they got was an octagon and some old tapes.
And a name, Zuffa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was it. And now look at them. They are a $10 billion organization altogether, with their TV
and I think
deals.
Elon's looking at buying them too. Or
we were talking about that.
TKO.
Elon buying the TKO, which would include WWE and UFC. But I don't see him selling that. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I heard Netflix is coming close to buying the Warner Brothers catalog, so That's
Yeah,
massive.
we'll see about that.
I know. I mean, there's some monopolization stuff going on there. I think there was a bidding war between Paramount and Netflix, and some Saudi prince wanted to buy them as well. But I mean, who would have ever thought that in a capitalistic society that we live in, that you couldn't buy something if you had enough money to buy it?
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of money that's out there.
80 billion or something for Warner Brothers,
Yeah.
80, 90 billion. Like,
Yeah.
folks, the difference between a million and a billion is unfathomable. Elon Musk is worth almost 800 billion right now. 800
Yeah, he's on
billion.
his way to $1 trillion.
First trillionaire. Like,
Yeah.
unreal. You know what I would do if I had $800 billion? I'd solve world hunger. Like, that's the first thing that I would do for the ones that actually wanted it, right? I'd solve world hunger, and I'd make sure that everybody had clean drinking water, and then I'd still have 600 billion left over. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Would you take it in
money.
one lump sum payment, or would you do it in monthly payments?
Ooh, I'd do it in one lump sum. Well, wait, is there a penalty for taking one lump sum?
Yeah, of course. You know there is.
Okay, so let's say 600 billion now or 800 billion over time. I'd take the 600 billion now, right? And I would set up everybody in the audience for life. I'd set you up for life. I'd set my friends and family up for life. I'd make sure they never had to pay another tax on their home or anything ever again if they didn't want to. Then I would buy a silver mine. And I would start mining silver with that, and I'd let that money continue to make money, and that silver mine would last my family until Jesus came back, and they'd never have anything to worry about. I'd solve world hunger. I'd make sure everybody had wells to drink clean water, and I'd live off the money that I had left in the bank and my new silver mine. That's what I'd do.
It's like that movie, I don't know if you remember Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor.
Yes.
Yeah, where he had to spend, I don't remember how much in 30 days, but I think he spent it on himself and friends and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I think solving world hunger wouldn't be a one-time thing. You know, you might feed everybody for that year, and then you'd have to keep doing it. Maybe I'd buy everybody.
You're gonna run dry pretty soon.
Yeah, maybe I'll buy everybody McDonald's or something. For sure. And I'd probably buy myself a plane, too. That way I didn't have to fly with idiots, take my shoes off at the airport and all that. Although I did just sign up for TSA Pre, so kind of excited to see how that works out. But anyway, that has nothing to do with gold and silver, guys. So anyway, today, 888-308-4202. Be smart. If you're out there in the market for purchasing gold, silver, palladium, or platinum, right? Because you deal with all of that, right, Rich? All four?
We do.
Then reach out today. Specifically gold and silver, folks. Obviously, it's the one everybody knows. Do it today. Get the dip. Buy the dip. Don't be a dip and buy the dip. You know what I mean? Be smart. We know what's going to drive these costs back up. We know it's going to rebound. We're waiting for stupid press conferences. Rich, I'm wondering, since President Trump loves gold and silver so much, I'm wondering if he bought any today after he didn't have a press conference with...
Yeah, you know he probably did.
Right?
You got to know that. I mean, the guy's very calculated. I mean, I'm assuming he did. He added it to his portfolio.
Yeah, Tim Warsh is like, so, okay, great. I'm here. We're going to do a press conference today. I got a whole bunch of stuff written down.
No, I got to go run and buy some gold and silver.
We're not going to do the press conference today. We're going to hold off, okay? We're going to hold off. I've got to go purchase some real quick, but we're going to hold off. I'll bet you.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's exactly. Because, I mean, hey, look, if he did, that might be insider buying. I'm not sure. Or maybe that's just smart. Maybe that's just me being smart. You don't like the tax code? Change the tax code. I'm working up your tax code, right? But it is odd that he didn't have that press conference. I mean...
Yeah, it is odd.
It is odd. I mean, more than likely it's President Trump just stringing the media along and, making sure that he's calculating. Look, timing is everything in politics, right? There are no coincidences, and timing is everything. Maybe he's going to start the week out strong. He probably wants to rally the market at the same time that some bad news might be coming out or something. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I fully expect to have a press conference from this guy by the end of the next week. No? I mean, that'd be unprecedented if we didn't.
Definitely.
Yeah, you gotta give the market some understanding here. And I don't think he can go through next week without coming out and doing a press conference. So that's what we'll be looking for. Rich, the floor is yours. Anything, obviously, we've got some action item here, goldencrestmetals.com/LFA, the number on the bottom of the screen. But Rich, is there anything that you want to say on the way out here today?
Yeah, we're still offering the 10% free silver on qualified purchases. We'd love to have you as a customer. I can personally work with some of the customers depending on my availability. And, we're just here to educate and help people. Even if they don't come to us, there's no hard feelings. We want to make sure that the Americans are taken care of and protected.
That's right, guys. And you see the number right down there, 888-308-4202. Now, you're more than welcome when you call to say, is this Rich? Can I talk to Rich? And I'm sure that maybe something can work out. But you may not get Rich on the first call. You might get somebody else. Either way, I'm sure it'll be somebody very, very polite and can help you out. Again, if this is something that you want to transfer a portion or all of your 401k over to with gold and silver, you can definitely do so. If you want storage, then GoldenCrest Metals does offer free storage. So if you end up getting a lot and you don't want it sent home to you, they can do that. If you want some sent home to you in coins, they can work out something there as well. If you have an IRA, if you have any kind of savings or nest egg and you want to dabble, well, my grandma used to say, a little dabble do ya. So if you're looking to dabble, a little dabble do ya. Just call them now at 888-308-4202, and they'll help you out. They'll answer any questions that you have. I'm sure they have free material for you to get as well. And, they'll have a conversation with you just like we are right here. So if you've been afraid to do it, I think stop being afraid now, because get the dip. You know what I mean? Don't wait, especially this week. Don't wait, and I think you would agree, right, Rich?
I absolutely agree.
All right, guys. Well, for myself and Rich Jacoby here on this Saturday, January 31st, last day of the month, we're going to sign off, and we will see you next week for another episode of the Crest Report. And hopefully next week we'll have a press conference already done by Kevin Warsh and President Trump, and we'll be rebounding like crazy after you called today. That will be when we celebrate, right? So for all of us here at LFA TV, thank you. Have a good weekend, and we will see you on the flip side. Thank you, guys. See you later.
Thank you.